Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Devotions. Pastor Steve here, walking with you in God's Word. Exodus chapter 23 had a lot of detail in laws and community and relationships and how we live with one another, united in a community. Now we get to see those more details, but a little bit more pointed of how you celebrate, how you actually celebrate justice, and how you celebrate mercy. And so within that celebration, there's festivals. Within those celebrations, there's ways that you can have reconciliation with God and with one another. A paramount thing for a community to be healthy, a community to be thriving, and a community that really truly is for one another. And so as we have in Exodus chapter 23, laws of justice and mercy, and then the carving out of the festivals that God ordains in and amongst his people. Chapter 23, beginning at verse 1, let's read together. Do not spread false reports. Do not help a wicked man by being a malicious witness. Do not follow the crowd in doing wrong. When you give testimony in a lawsuit, do not pervert justice by siding with the crowd. And do not show favoritism to a poor man in his lawsuit. If you come across your enemy's ox or donkey wandering off, be sure to take it back to him. If you see the donkey of someone who hates you fallen down under its load, do not leave it there. Be sure you help him with it. These might be small details or what you'd see as insignificant, but this just breathes into a community that it doesn't matter who you are. I'm here to care, I'm here to have compassion, and I'm here to help. Sometimes it's even, as it says here, someone who hates you, someone who despises you, and you still would actually step towards them. Jesus speaks about this later into the New Testament and saying, hey, do the good works. Do the good works even to your enemies, and then you heap burning coals upon their head. They're just going to be wondering. They're going to be asking the question of, why would you do that? You know I despise, you know I hate, and yet you still step towards me. Right. Because we're living out really the mission of God rather than just the mission of self. And the mission of God was, we were enemies of God, and he still stepped toward us in care and compassion, giving up his own son. Mercy, right? Living in mercy. Verse 6, it says, do not deny justice to your poor people in their lawsuits. Have nothing to do with a false charge, and do not put an innocent or honest person to death, for I will not acquit the guilty. Do not accept a bribe, for a bribe blinds those who see and twist the words of the righteous. Do not oppress an alien. You yourselves know how it feels to be aliens, because you were aliens in Egypt. For 6 years you are to sow your fields and harvest the crops, but during the 7th year let the land lie unplowed and unused. Then the poor among your people may get food from it, and the wild animals may eat what they leave. Do the same with your vineyard and your olive grove. 6 days do your work, but on the 7th day do not work, so that your ox and your donkey may rest, and the slave born in your household and the alien as well may be refreshed. Be careful to do everything I have said to you. Do not invoke the names of other gods. Do not let them be heard on your lips. God looks at all of creation and he knows what it needs. It doesn't need continual work. It doesn't need continual busyness. It says, here is 6 years for this field, but then leave it fallow. Leave it for a year. Give it rest. Let the community around it use it in a different way. Sabbath. 6 days you should work, but on the 7th, rest. There is a unique thing in creation that God has built into his community, his people, his all of creation. And that is a yearning for rest, a need for rest. 6 days you should work. The 7th day you should rest. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Set it apart. It's vital for all of creation, but for you and me to rest. Verse 14 says, 3 times a year you are to celebrate a festival to me. Celebrate the feast of unleavened bread, Passover. For 7 days eat bread made without yeast, as I commanded you. Do this at excuse me. Do this at the appointed time in the month of Abib. For in that month you came out of Egypt. That's that first month, right? 14th day. No one is to appear before me empty-handed. Celebrate the feast of harvest with the first fruits of the crops you sow in your field. Pentecost. Celebrate the feast of ingathering at the end of the year when you gather in your crops from the field. Sukkoth. 3 times a year all the men are to appear before the sovereign Lord. Do not offer the blood of a sacrifice to me along with anything containing yeast. The fat of my festival offerings must not be kept until morning. Bring the best of the first fruits of your soil to the house of the Lord your God. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. Just a hesitancy, festivals and celebrations, right? They would, in the pagan world, in the polytheistic world that they came from in Egypt, they would do that. They would cook the goat in its mother's milk. So don't be like them. These festivals are to the Lord. These festivals aren't just to be something of tradition, something just of rote. No, these festivals are to the Lord. First and foremost, he brought you up out of Egypt. Second, he provided you what you needed in the wilderness wanderings, right? And in amongst your crop, in amongst the desert wanderings. So Pentecost, right? He provides for you. And third of all, he continues to provide for you in 2 different seasons, in that Pentecost season, but also into the fall harvest as well. God will provide. He provides you shelter, protection, and what you need in this life. Celebrate. Don't celebrate like the nations around you. Celebrate like he's ordained it. Verse 20 says, see, I am sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion, since my name is in him. If you listen carefully to what he says and do what all that I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies and will oppose those who oppose you. My angel will go ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hippites, and Jebusites, and I will wipe them out. Do not bow down to their gods or worship them or follow their practices. You must demolish them and break their sacred stones to pieces. Worship the Lord your God, and his blessing will be on your food and water. I will take away sickness from among you, and none will miscarry to be or be barren in your land. I will give you a full lifespan. I will send my terror ahead of you and throw into confusion every nation you encounter. I will make all your enemies turn their backs and run. I will send the hornet ahead of you to drive the Hivites, Canaanites, and Hittites out of your way. But I will not drive them out in a single year, because the land would become desolate and the wild animals too numerous for you. Little by little, I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. That's the promised land. All these ites, the Hivites, Canaanites, Hittites, these are all settled in the promised land that God is bringing his people up out of Egypt through the wanderings and into Judea, the promised land, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Nazareth, all those kind of places. I will establish your borders from the Red Sea, southeast, to the Sea of the Philistines, all the way west, Mediterranean, right? And from the desert to the river, all the way over to the Jordan River. I will hand you over to the people who live in the land, and you will drive them out and drive them out before you. Do not make a covenant with them or with their gods. Do not let them live in your land, or they will cause you to sin against me, because the worship of their gods will certainly be a snare to you. First warning of as you go in, as I provide, just be content in my provision. Don't be content in what you might see with your eyes of the other nations and how they're prospering and maybe how you're going to show mercy upon them by not driving them out. No, God says, I'll provide for you. My provision is to drive them out. Otherwise, there'll be a lure, a snare, a temptation to you to be like them or to worship their gods. I am the one true God. I have brought you up out of Egypt. I will provide for you. I will continue to provide for you. I will protect you. I will fight your battles. He keeps putting these great details in amongst his community so that they just listen and have this incredible message draw near to them that he is their God. He will be with them and he will go ahead of them. I pray that you hear that as well. He is our God. He is with us, and he always goes before us, reaches out with his hand backwards and just says, follow me. So, brothers and sisters, have a blessed day, following God in his mission to love him, but also to love others around us. Have a blessed day.